Hello and welcome to another update. First of all, I have deleted the Ukraine border thing because I decided that it is unnecessary because Ukraine controls Ukraine anyways, and then the gray zone isn't really that telling. So I just deleted it because the gray zone is unclear anyways, so I couldn't get any accurate information on the gray zone. It is basically just estimates by all my sources, and there's no indication as to which one is right. And then if the Ukrainians do a offensive, then we can just pull back to Russian border. There's no reason to put a second border there. But if it's absolutely necessary for you guys to better understand it, then I can make a small zone for the Ukrainian army whenever they are launching an offensive. Let me know what you think. But yeah, starting out with the update, we have an update around Bakhmut as well as Donetsk, as both Wagner and the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense are very late in their morning report, so I don't have any information from them. This is all based on Ryber as well as Syriac mapping and Deep State map, which is the pro-Ukrainian source. So starting out in the Marinka area, according to Deep State map, the Russian forces have managed to capture all the way to the center of Marinka. And if we look at the recap, we can see here that it is these two blocks here to the east of the center. And that is based on a geolocated video of some tanks attacking here by the roads leading up to the center, right by the center. So they were attacking these areas with Russian tanks, which indicates that the Russians are in control of that area. And then at the same time, Ryber is reporting that the Russian forces are attacking in the direction of Pobieda, as well as to the north of Marinka, where they're trying to flank the city. Then we move on to the Pervomaiska area and Vodiana area. We see here that the Russian forces are advancing with the center of these two villages. And this is very interesting because now the Russian forces are close enough to attack by the river line from the north, which, coupled with an attack here from the south by the road, will allow the Russian forces to cut off all the Ukrainian forces in this area here. So the Ukrainian forces will be forced to retreat out of this area and back into this field here, which is much more narrow and less defended than the residential buildings here to the south. So the Russian forces are essentially enveloping these forces. It could also be a larger envelopment where they are going northwards towards Vodiane as they continue advancing here, which will then allow them to pass down and attack Pervomaiska here in the north. And if they do a larger envelopment here, advancing through the fields all the way to the roads here, they'll be able to envelop a much larger force. So it depends on how risky they want the strategy to be, because obviously the second one has better reward for the Russian soldiers, but also carry much more risk. Now, moving on to the Bakhmut front, there's no updates on the southern part, but as for the northern part, fighting continues on the whole front. We see here that the Russian forces have managed to capture a part here to the northeast of the residential area of the north of Bakhmut, where they've captured the last parts here to the north and are advancing slightly here to the northeast, closing in on these residential areas, closing in on this industrial area here to the northeast of Bakhmut. Most likely they are looking to envelop this industrial area to prevent the Ukrainians from either using it completely or to just starve them out within this industrial area, because this one is very tough to break through. The Russians will most likely not storm it, as that will cause a lot of casualties. They'll just strike it with artillery and surround it, which will eventually force them to either surrender or starve. And then they will move further southwards along the Bakhmutovka River as they try to reach the train station here to the south and essentially cut off the east from the west. Then I have another update, which is that whenever the Ukrainians get any territory, then I've now named it Ukraine, and I've also changed the color. So there's about 30 colors like this. So by the month, I am putting it so that the Russians start at the bottom right and the Ukrainians start at the top left, so that it will not co-align with the Russian color, so that we can see the difference between the two. And then we see here that the Russian forces managed to capture a further part of the northwest of Yahidne, where there are these forest lines, and they have managed to capture the southern part of the northern edge of Bakhmut. And at the same time, they've entered the Vasilivka, this area here, where they've captured these buildings here. It looks like some sort of industrial or farming buildings, where they've entered those. And at the same time, they've taken the hill here to the north, and they are advancing southwards and westwards in this direction, trying to cut off the road between Dubovo Vasilivka and Orihovo Vasilivka, and at the same time storming Dubovo Vasilivka from the northern area by the hills, and at the same time attacking Dubovo Vasilivka from the east. So that is all the attacks on Dubovo Vasilivka. And then we also have the Russian forces advancing by the E40 highway, trying to cut off any roads between the east and the west. And at the same time increasing the buffer zone by the E40 highway to prevent any reinforcements from supporting the Ukrainian defenders here to the north of Bakhmut. And that is all for today's update. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.